Hey guys, you're on DevOps Pass AI channel, and it means we will try to make DevOps a bit simpler for you. Today we will discuss Kubernetes tools, integrations, and actions we have in DevOps Pass to simplify your interaction with Kubernetes. Let's start. First of all, to do anything with Kubernetes, we have to add application, Kubernetes. I want to install Kubernetes locally, as I have no one at the moment. So I will need Docker. If you're on Windows, you will need WSL, Windows Subsystem for Linux. Okay, Docker, Helm. I want to play with Helm a bit. I will show you things with OpenShift, if you're using OpenShift, and K3s. So by default, you have nothing installed on your local machine. Let's deploy Kubernetes on your local first. We will use K3s. K3s is really lightweight Kubernetes distro, developed originally especially for cases when you need and have to develop Kubernetes on your local. So it's so small that allowing you even install it on Raspberry Pi if you have one, and develop especially to create and remove Kubernetes clusters on your local all the time. So let's install. By default, it will install in Docker. Create one container for me, and we will see quick start. It's allowing you to deploy on Alibaba, AWS, Google, Tencent, and so on, but we will use K3d. K3d, it's mean install it locally on Docker. We will need one master node, one worker node, and we'll call it local. Let's create. It's creating. In a few seconds, I will have a Kubernetes cluster. Okay, it's created, running. I can copy, download kubeconfig, and copy it to clipboard, and return back to DevOps Pass. I'll refresh, you can see local cluster. I have to switch to Kubernetes again, add kubeconfig, paste my kubeconfig, and you can see later on I will show you how to add OpenShift. Let's see, kube context, one lonely namespaces. It's namespaces in current context. You can switch between them by selecting namespace as default. I will keep default for the moment. You can install kubectl or K9s. K9s is really cool tool. You definitely have to install it. It's console UI to interact with Kubernetes. It's allowing you to switch between context, namespaces, search for resources, tail logs, and blah, 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 a lot of stuff. And that tool which was made really with love. People who developed it were loving what they are doing. You will see now. So close, let's open it in K9s. K9s. Really wonderful tool, as I said before, written with love, with passion, I would say, which allowing you to navigate through Kubernetes resources in console UI, and it's really useful when you're using it. I recommend use and try to play with that tool if you're thinking that some UI tool will be better. For sure not, because that one is really faster and allowing you to make things faster. So what common things? First of all, you can see the on top 0, 1, 2 hotkeys, which means you can show resources in all namespaces. 0 in kube admin, it's installed on my local Kubernetes cluster, or default namespace, which is empty. So I want all, present 0. If you want to switch between resource types, so right now, if you can see in the bottom, I'm checking for pods. I want to see, for example, config maps. I'm pressing colon, config map, enter, and I see config maps. I can open any and see what's inside. Really useful, no need to do any additional command runs and things like this. Very nice feature. Let's return to pods. Really nice feature. You can check for pod and see logs output of it. Then you can open your pod and attach to it if you need. TTY, sorry, wrong container. Attach. These containers have no TTY, so any other you can attach to. You can delete, Control D. You can describe, D, very useful stuff, and allowing you to switch between resources, run shell, for example, on container in one click. No need to search container name. As you can see in traffic pod, if I'm opening it, I see two containers inside, sorry. So I can start as, I want shell, specify which container to start shell in, and ta-da, I'm inside. What else you can do? Pretty often you may arrive in a situation when you need to troubleshoot something against your service. Really cool feature of K3s, you can open services, so colon services, select your service, press enter, shift F, and it's asking which port you want to use on your local, remote, OK, and go forward. That's probably it, but in fact, the K3s is a really cool tool which require additional special video to describe all features of it. I really recommend you to play with it, try it. It's available on Linux, on macOS, and on Windows. So try it, really cool. Let's move on. Now, next step. Namespaces. The same. Open in K3s, set as default. And that's it. Simple, nothing special. If we're speaking about just basic switching between context, namespaces, playing with resources in Kubernetes, and so on. For OpenShift, if you have no installed OC, which is OpenShift CLI, you can do it from DevOps path. Now, I have prepared sandbox in Red Hat OpenShift. Developer sandbox, you can take it for free. You can click copy login command, authenticate, display token, and copy login command. Paste it in terminal and return back to Kubernetes. You can see we have new context, especially for OpenShift. We can, there is action I didn't describe yet, open the console. I'm clicking it, and it is opening web console for me. Now I can navigate in that console. Let's return back to DevOps path. Next step, I want to play with Helm. Helm is package manager, one of the most popular these days. As you can see, it's not installed in on my local yet. Install latest version by default. it's finished. We can refresh and see that there is no Helm releases installed in current context. Surprise! Actually not. It's fresh cluster, so nothing should be here. Okay. I already had some Helm repos added before. Let's add new one. Let's say I want to re-add Bitnami. Add Helm repo. Repo URL. Okay, add Helm repo. It will take a while because Bitnami is pretty large Helm repo. And okay, we have one. What we can do with Helm repos here? Of course, we can add Helm repos, right? We can refresh info, so it will re-download metadata about packages. We can remove and copy name. Okay, next step, Helm charts. Helm charts is all charts you have from your local, and you can install some. For example, I want to install Jenkins. Install, I can specify values in JSON format and click. Let's go. Waiting. It's installing Helm chart. Okay, let's check. Yeah, Jenkins Helm chart installed. What we can do with what you can do here, you can check actions for Helm repo charts, means charts not installed on your local yet, means on your Kubernetes cluster. You can install it, you can open chart source or copy name. Let's check on Jenkins. So install chart. We just install Jenkins, open chart source. Really useful thing because it's opening for you source URL, sources URL if one is provided, where you can check README, and if in README you have his description, you can read it. If not, again, you can check values YAML and see which variables are available to configure that Helm chart. Pretty often it's annoying to find out sources of installed chart. Let's return back. For releases, so Helm chart already installed, deployed in your current context. You can test release. It's action specified in Helm test section. So it will do tests and output result. For many cases, test means show me a README after Helm chart install. You can open it if you're not written it here. You probably should not. You can open it from notifications and see what chart saying to you. You can copy text from here and move forward. Probably that's it. Another word about K3s is if you don't need your local cluster anymore, it's deployed in Docker, as you can see. If you don't need it anymore, open K3s in browser. Open clusters, check it and delete. Ta-da! There is no clusters anymore. So you can start from scratch. As you can see, it requires only few minutes to deploy Kubernetes on your local. Okay, summary about that tutorial. We learned how to manage Kubernetes contexts, manage Kubernetes namespaces, how to install Kubernetes locally with K3s, thanks to Rancher, how to use and add OpenShift contexts, projects, and also used K9s to overlook and manage resources in our Kubernetes contexts, in clusters. I hope that tutorial was interesting for you. you enjoyed it, and see you soon.